Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Pei Ches Amid Beis at the bottom. Very, I should say intense stuff, I guess, would be the best way to explain it. Just outside a little bit. Generally, you would think that the only way for a woman to collect her ksuba would be to produce her ksuba. In other words, she gets divorced, her husband dies, she should go to Beis Din, and produce a ksuba that the husband owes X amount of money, like any other halva. Produce it, and then you'll go ahead and be divorced. It should be not be a problem. As we're going to see in our Mishnah, that's not necessarily the case. Right? That's not necessarily the case. Ksuba, guys, is a Tanai Beis Din. Ksuba is, again, Beis Din is the one who instituted Ksuba, that a woman shouldn't be easy for a man to go ahead and divorce his wife. They instituted it. So having the document does not change the fact that the ksuba is in place. In other words, it's not the document that creates the halacha. Beis Din created the halacha. It's a Tanai Beis Din. And let's do a Rashi just before we begin the Mishnah. Let's do Rashi on Pei Tes Amid Aleph. Pei Tes Amid Aleph. Right? If she shows up and she doesn't have a ksuba, says the top Rashi, and she collects a ksuba. And he's not able to claim praiticha. I paid off. And you return to me your ksuba and I ripped it up. In other words, you would think, fellas, it's like any other document. If you have a document, somebody owes you money, which a ksuba is a document that the husband owes money. So what would you do to ensure that it's not used again? You would get the document and you rip it up, correct? Good? So the chayre, you would think, guys, if a woman shows up in Beis Din without a ksuba, you would think there's no way in the world that she should be able to collect. You would think that the person should be able to make a claim. Guess what? I paid you up. You gave me back the document and I ripped it up. It's not true, says Rashi. It's not true. Why? The Tanai Ksuba Maisa Beis Din who? Because Tanai Ksuba is a Maisa Beis Din. And that makes it different than any other shtar chov. Guys, it's very important. You can view as I lend Heshi money, I got a shtar chov on Heshi, or I got a Ksuba on my wife. I owe my wife. I owe Heshi. Let's say Heshi's the Malva. I owe Heshi. I owe my wife. So, but if Heshi shows up in Beis Din and he says, pay up, if you don't have a document, there's no way I'm paying up. With your wife, Beis Din's the one instituted that there's a halacha that you can't be married without a ksuba, meaning the document is just a raya to the Tanai Beis Din. The Tanai Beis Din, guys, it's written there. The Tanai Beis Din is if it's there. Let's continue Rashi. If someone goes ahead and makes a claim after my Beis Din, that's nothing. My timer, listen to this and underline it. Any Maisa Beis Din, as if you have a shtar that's written. You don't need the ksuba to collect. It's like the ksuba is there already. It's unbelievable power of Tanai Beis Din, what Tanai Beis Din shops. So in other words, even though ksuba is a shtar chov that you owe money, it's inherently much more powerful than another shtar chov. Why? Because it's collectible even if it's not there. It's collectible even if it's not there. Okay, so let's do the Mishnah. With that hakdama, let's do the Mishnah. Haitzia get. A woman shows up and she produces a get. The ainima ksuba, but she has no ksuba. So now, if she has a get, the mechanism for collection is in place because she's divorced. She shows up with a get. Obviously, it must be the husband gave her the get. How did she get it? Good. So there's no question. And he's not even saying I didn't divorce her. So now, once there's two things that trigger the ksuba collection, either gerushin or misa, right? Those two. So he's clearly alive. She shows up with a get. That get triggers the mechanism of collection. However, the ainima ksuba, she doesn't have a ksuba. So if I were before you looked at this Mishnah, you would say in a million years, what? You can't collect. Says the Mishnah, no, goy v'ksubasa. You collect the 200 or the 100. The ikka ksuba, you collect. Why? As we just saw in Rashi, because it's Maisa Beis Din. And Maisa Beis Din, what's the Lashon? Is if it's written. Since Beis Din instituted that people who are married, he has the security and the insurance of the ksuba, it's invisible. It's if it's there. And therefore she can collect it. Because you're getting divorced, you did get divorced, and therefore you can go ahead and collect. That's the first case in the Mishnah. First case in the Mishnah, you could, despite the fact she doesn't have a ksuba, you could collect. Next, how about this? Ksuba, she has the ksuba, the enima get. So this is the opposite. In the first case, she has the get, she doesn't have the ksuba. In this case, she has the ksuba, but she doesn't have the get. And Hiomeres, she says, Avad Giti, I lost my get. He doesn't disagree. He says you're divorced. But Hu Omer, Avad Shaivri, I went ahead and I lost my shaver. Now, what is a shaver? Is a receipt. He needs a receipt that he paid up, right? He needs a receipt, l'chayra, that he paid up. That he paid up, and you're not worried. We're going to see Rashi in a second. We have to do Rashi's here. What?
Do you need to show in the previous case?
If the shayv is only if what?
When agreed with divorce, the question was whether Ksuba was paid or not.
No, you're going to see when they write a shayva. You're going to see when they write a shayva. Okay. Where are you? There you are. Sorry. All right. Yeah. Okay. So she says that what? That I lost the get. He just doesn't disagree that you divorced, right? And he says I paid up. He says I paid up. And how would he have a raya that he paid up because he has a receipt? But he said he lost the receipt. Right? You have a star halva. It's Shemitah has passed. Shemitah is mishamed. We know it takes of a chov that person owes you, unless you have a document that he'll institute called the principal. Even though you don't have to go ahead, despite the fact that it's a Maisa Bezdin, guys, still you don't have to pay up. Now let's focus on this a second, guys. You just told me, Rashi, it's a Maisa Bezdin, you don't need the star, correct? So over here it's a Maisa Bezdin. Good. Over here it's a Maisa Bezdin. So why over here, right? Why over here, guys? Why over here are we not saying that it's Maisa Bezdin and you should have to pay up? And the answer is because there's a big reisa over here. She doesn't have a get. She doesn't have a get. The fact that she doesn't have a get is a reisa. It's so detrimental that even despite the fact that it's a Maisa Bezdin, since she doesn't have a get, it impedes her power to collect. It impedes her power to collect. Right? We'll see. We'll see. You could have a grusha. It doesn't make a difference. She doesn't have a get. She needs a get. From sakana ve'elach, where the sakana is that we couldn't keep mitzvahs and you couldn't keep a principle or a get around. Then in that case, what isha ve'elach isha goyvik subasa, a woman could collect a ksuba shaloi beget even without a get. Ubal chayv goyva shaloi beprinciple, because again they're scared to keep him around. They're scared to keep him around. Okay, so now we're concerned. We're concerned in case number 2, fellas. Case number 2. She doesn't have a get. The get is what really causes her to collect. Guys, look at me. Let's go through. Here's what you would think, and here's not the truth. Here's what you would think, Yehuda. Here's what you would think, and here's not the truth. You would think a person shows up in Bezdin, she wants to collect a ksuba, produce your ksuba and you'll collect. That's not the trick. That's not the truth. In order to collect a ksuba, you need 2 things: either a dead husband or an ex-husband. Good. What goes ahead and shows the ex-husband the get? So in the second case, the fact that you don't have a get, that impedes her ability to collect. I have a ksuba, I don't care. Ksuba is my Bezdin, so you should be able to collect. The fact that you lost your get goes ahead and weakens the fact that that's my Bezdin. That weakens my Bezdin. Okay, so now he says you went ahead and now why would you write a shayver? Why would you write? Why would you need a receipt? Once you have a get, take the get. There's no way you can collect again. Correct? Oh. So what about if you're an almana and you don't need a get? In other words, the woman possibly can double dip. collect with the get, good, and then if the husband dies and you don't need a get, collect again. What stops you from doing that? You have a shaver. You have a receipt. Let's see Rashi, guys. That last nakuda is important nakuda. Okay. Avad Giti, fourth line down. She says, I lost my get. Shaloi haitziato love ligvois ksubasi al yadai. I didn't give a get to collect through my. I never used it to collect. Kidnan goyvik ksubasa v'loy karuhu bezdin ela avad mimeni. In other words, I lost my get. Usually, a get is used for collection, guys. And if it's used for collection, the husband's going to have it, or we're going to rip it up. But I didn't produce it, and it wasn't ripped up. Who Ahmed Avid Shayfer? No. You already showed this get in Bezdin. You already collected. And they ripped it up. And they wrote for me a shayver on the ksuba. Why? Shem taitzi oid al yairish shtarak ksuba b'tavoy ligvois mikoyach al manais loyma lenis garashti v'lenefrati yeah shayver la'aid v'avadi meni. Outside, guys, beautiful. There's two ways she can collect, right? She can collect as a divorcee. She can collect as a widow. To collect as a divorcee, what do you need? A get. To collect as a widow, what do you need? Ksuba. Collect as a widow, you need a ksuba, right? So beautiful. You write the shayver for what? In the instance that she shouldn't double dip as an almana. You write the shayver, she shouldn't double dip as an almana. That's why you need the shayver for. So she's collecting, she's avad giti, I lost my get. So what are you going to collect? Mikoyach what? Ksuba? I lost my shayver. My bezdin, the fact she lost her get, it's going to break it. So it's two very intense cases with tremendous lumdis, but it comes together. Okay, so again, let's chazer over the Mishnah, and then we'll see the machlokes in the Gemara. Okay, 2 days, 2 opinions. We have 2 cases. First case, she shows up with a get. No ksuba. What would you say? Whatever you would say, it's the opposite. You would say there's no way you collect, right? Guess the answer is no, you do collect. You collect mikoyach the get. You're getting divorced, right? And you collect, I wish ksuba. Guys, what's the answer? Tanai Bezdin. And a Tanai Bezdin is like it's written down. Boom, collect. What happens if you show up without a get and you want to collect the ksuba? Okay. He says, I divorced you already. She says, I lost the get. You lost that power. Good. Now, so you want to collect the ksuba? Have a shaver. Where's your shaver? I lost the shaver. Doesn't make a difference. The fact that she doesn't have a get, boom. Those are 2 cases. Says Rav Shimon Gamliel, if you can go ahead and ascertain that maybe why she wouldn't have a get because it's a sakana, then she'll collect. That's the Mishnah, guys. That's the Mishnah. I think we're set up well. Hopefully, I found the Gemara very, very difficult. Shmamina, Kaisav Shayver. We hear from the Mishnah, from the first case of the Mishnah, right? When you go ahead and produce a get, it must be you're writing a Shayver. Guys, how do you hear that? You guys, you should be able to answer that question. Right?
Because he says he lost it.
No. The first case of the Mishnah. Shmamina, from the first case of the Mishnah, right, that you collect with a get, it must be you're at a shaver, because what's to stop you from collecting with the ksuba? Shmamina, kaisvin shaver. The ain't kaisvin shaver. Leichishtil mamafgil ksubasa v'gavyaba. Guys, listen to me. I'm just going over again and again, but it makes a lot of sense. What happened? You're telling me you collect with the get, correct? Good. You collect with the get. She has another mechanism to collect. What is that? The ksuba. She said she lost it. All of a sudden it pops up, right? What's the stop? What's the stop of collecting mitaris almana? What's the answer? That's a shaver. So you see, you write a shaver. Now, so what's the big deal about a shaver? Guys, there's a tremendous machloikis at the end of Baba Basra. Again, whether I brought this out in the shir the other day, whether you write a receipt or not. May you ask me a question. Ari, you asked me that question. Ari, remember? Why don't you just write a receipt? I told you you don't write a receipt. You know why? You're making the onus on the loiva to go always said, in other words, if I have someone holding out a shtar chayv against me, when I pay up, I want that shtar chayv and rip it up and put it in my shredder. Because if you're going to make me write a shaver and I don't have that shtar chayv for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to keep that shoiva to ascertain that nothing happens to it. Why? Or else that star is going to pop up again. So all of a sudden she says the ksuba is lost. Maybe it's going to pop up and she'll say it's an almana. What's the answer? It must be you write a shoiva. What's wrong with that? There's a machloikis whether you write a shoiva or not. And according to Rashi, we pass like the man, you don't write a shoiva. That's the problem with it. Shema Mina is not an innocuous Shema Mina. It's a chiddush. It's a chiddush. And it's coming to go ahead and coming. Baruch Hashem is coming together for me. At least I feel it's coming together. So you dealt with the get part, right? Now the shoiva must deal with the ksuba part. Yeah. Shema Mina, that kaisin shoiva. Why? The ain't kaisin shoiva. Because if you don't write a receipt, leichish dilma mifakeh plal ksubasa, maybe she'll mafkala ksuba. She'll show up, produce the ksuba, the gavyaba, and she'll collect from it. Good. That's the Gemara makes that there. Guys, you good? Screen man, we're all good? Bobblehead time? Good. I got a good bobble. That's the Gemara. Amarav, b'makam shein kaisvin ksuba. You know what we're dealing asking on? You don't have to write a shaver. You know why you don't have to write a shaver? Because you never have to worry about the ksuba showing up. You know why? We're still in a place where you don't write a ksuba. There were places you didn't write a ksuba. I'll tell you why. Guys, a ksuba is a Tanai Bezdin. Once you're married, automatically there's a ksuba. So in order to go ahead and avoid the problem of the husband having to watch the shayva forever, they wouldn't write a ksuba. So this Mishnah, our Mishnah, you want to say, there's no raya that what you write a shayva. And there's no concern that you're going to produce a ksuba and collect as an almana, because they're stealing in a place where you don't write a ksuba.
Such a place, I'm assuming that they can live together without a ksuba also.
Again, they're not. Again, you're never living without a ksuba.
But you say they don't write
right? Ksuba is a Tanai Bezdin. Again, ksuba is a Tanai Bezdin.
So you don't need a piece of paper.
Correct.
They can live together because they don't need a piece of
paper. Correct. Okay, so Rav says, Einachinami, you don't have to worry about a shaver because you don't have to worry about recollection because there's no ksuba. Okay, now Shmuel says something, guys. Listen to this. Even in a place shekoismin ksuba, okay, it can be speaking even in a place where you write a ksuba. Shmuel koismin shoiver, and Shmuel would say you write a shoiver. So Shmuel says it could even be it could be speaking in other place like Rav, but can even be speaking in a place where where you don't write it. And if you're not going to write it, say the Gemara. Shmuel koismin shoiver. Shmuel lama afimachim ksuba stop. Fred the Gemara, if that's the case, you write a ksuba. Shmuel kaismin shayver. Would Shmuel say you write a shayver? So what's wrong with that? As I told you, says Rashi, they don't pass like that. So want to answer up, guys. Says Rav, it's talking a place we don't write a ksuba. Says Shmuel, it's writing ksuba. Fred the Gemara, kasha. If it's speaking with a space of writing ksuba, why aren't we worried that after the get she's going to double dip, produce it as an almana? Why aren't we worried about that? And you don't write a shayver. So Gemara says, I'm telling you, Mar Shmuel, I'll tell you what Shmuel meant. The following. And this is his pshat in the Mishnah. B'makam shein kaisvin, a Mishnah speaking, can be speaking in a place where they don't write a ksuba. But Omar, and she says, kasafti. She says, he says, I wrote it. The minig is not to, but I did. So what's the halacha? Allah v'lehevi raya. It's upon him to bring a raya that he was mishane from the minig hamakim. B'makam shekoisvin, if it's a place that does write, v'ama, and she said loy kosovli, he didn't write for me, then Allah lehevi raya. Then it's up to her to bring a raya. So our Mishnah is talking where she brought proof. Our Mishnah is talking where she brought proof that what? Adam. She had Adam that she had Adam. She had Adam that the Kesuvos was written. Then again, all you have to do is you want to prove that what? That Allah, she says he didn't write for me, meaning there was a wedding, there was no kriyas ksuba, there's nothing, right? That's how you prove a negative. In other words, the time that it would come into play, you have Adam that didn't come into play. Good. No. So now, what's our Mishnah talking about? Our Mishnah that says that our case, guys, she produces a get, right? She produced the get. Good. She produced the get, yeah? And now she says she lost the ksuba. She has no ksuba. She had brought a raya that what? Right? She had brought a raya that she never got a ksuba. She never got it. She never got it because he didn't write it for her. That's what that's a Mishnah. That's what our Mishnah is talking about. Okay. But Rav Hadabei, Rav also changed his mind to say it's speaking in a place where they didn't write a ksuba. The Amar Rav, because what did Rav say? The Amar Rav, what did Rav say? Bein b'makom shekoisvin, bein b'makom she'en koisvin. Now listen to this, guys. Get goiva ikar. With the get, you'll collect 200. Ksuba with producing the ksuba, go even toisefes. You'd only collect what? Whatever he wrote in addition. Guys, what are we worried about? Fellas, look at me. What are we worried about this whole sugya? We're worried about double dipping. We're worried about her using the ksuba twice. Once as a gerusha, and once as an almana. What happens if it's mutually exclusive? In other words, when you produce a get, you know what you're going to get? The 200. If you're a basula, 100 if you're an almana. If you produce the ksuba, you know what you're going to get? Whatever extra the husband wanted to give you. So you don't have to worry because it's never going to go ahead and come in to the eat. In other words, you could do nothing wrong. It could be fine. You don't have to write a shayva. There's nothing because when you gave the get, you don't have to worry about her repeating and getting the money for the ksuba because obviously the get, you did something to the get that she can't use the get. The ksuba, you're not going to collect what it could collect, you won't be able to collect with the ksuba. The ksuba is a whole bazundra thing. It's a whole separate thing. That's Rav's teretz. One more time. Says Rav Hadabei. Rav says it's not Hadabei from saying it's a place where you didn't write a ksuba. Again, what's our concern, guys? Our concern is double dipping, right? Rav has an eitzah how you get no double dipping. I'm going to cover all bases. She'll never be able to double dip. Why? If she produces the get, what's she going to collect? If she produces the ksuba, what's she going to collect? There you go. No double dipping. Says the Gemara. So, get goiva ika, get only collects the main ksuba kama, ksuba goiva toisefes. Anybody wants to come and handle with this? I got this. It's iron clear. There's nothing to talk about. Since each document is totally independent of each other, since each document is totally independent of each other, you have nothing to worry about. So, guys, we have two pshatim in Mishnah. We have Shmuel's pshat that it's speaking in a place where they write a ksuba. He didn't write a ksuba. Therefore, the woman had aided him that she never got a ksuba, and therefore she can collect because she has a get. Rav says not a problem whether they wrote it, didn't write a ksuba. Can be speaking about it because whatever the get gives you, the ksuba won't give you, vice versa. Okay, says the Gemara to follow. Guys, what's the kasha? Guys, what's the kasha? Outside, guys, outside. If you're telling me, guys, look at me. You got two mechanisms to collect here, right? You got a get and you got a ksuba, yeah? Case number one is what? You're producing a get, no ksuba, correct? And so we're not worried about double dipping. Why? Because you're only going to get, okay. What's the second case? No get, yes, ksuba, correct? What do you get? You get nothing, but you should get, that's the kasha. You should go to, like Rav in the Mishnah, you should get the Sefis, but the Mishnah says, lo yifro, you can't collect. That's the kasha on Rav. That's the kasha on Rav. No, it's two separate things. That's why, two separate things totally. Says the Gemara, follow me. Tanan. We have a sefer to the Mishnah. Ksuba, the enima get. She produces the ksuba, but no get. Here Imeris Avad Giti. She says that what? I lost my get. Who am I? No. Of it Shivri. I went ahead. I gave you a get. I ripped up the get. I took care of the get. You had a ksuba. I had a shiv on that. The woman's out. Now, Bishlem the Shmuel Mukilab and Makam Shen Kaisvin, Vamakasafti, Bishlem Shmuel that said Arashis speaking what? Where a place where you write ksuba, and she said I wrote it. The Amri Levi say, I see raya, bring a raya. Below my see raya, Amina lay zil pari. If you don't bring a raya, go pay. And this happened in the sefer. The ksuba he said he wrote shows up. In other words, he admitted, guys, Guys, in the Reisha, he admitted, according to Shmuel, he wrote a ksuba, right? Guys, what was the case? No, guys, listen to me. Look at me. The Reisha, you don't normally write a ksuba, right? He wrote one. And that now continue the Sefer. There's no get, but there is a ksuba. Why? Because he did write a ksuba and it shows up. So we have a flow from the Reisha to the Sefer according to Shmuel. We have a flow. Beautiful. However, El Larav, Nehi de Ikaloi Gavya. Good, you can't connect to 200. Why? Because you don't have a get. Since you have the ksuba, you should be able to collect what? The 200. Kasha on Rav's shot in the Reisha from the Sefer. Rav said the Reisha is speaking what? I don't have to worry about what? About double dipping because each they don't collect the same thing. The get collects the 200. The ksuba collects the Tosefes. Yeah? Good. And now you're telling me that what? You don't get, what's the Sefer? The Sefer is, she doesn't have a get, so good, she doesn't have the ikka, but she does have the ksuba. She should get the Tosefes. Yet our Mishnah that Rav is explaining says she gets nada, nothing. That's the Kasha and Rav. That's the Kasha and Rav. Beautiful, beautiful. It's hard Gemara, but nice. You ever go, guys, well good? It's Erev Yom Kippur. You wouldn't lie to me, right? Okay, great. I got all the guys that blacked out. I don't know, you know. Okay, says the Gemara. It's a very gishmak. We have a Kasha and Rav. So Amar Rav Yosef, Hacham Ayaskinon, Kishein Shem Ede Gerishin, right? She doesn't have Ede Gerishin. Now this is probably like what Avi Rosenzweig was getting at. She doesn't have Ede Gerishin. She has no get, right? She has no get, yeah. So Migu the Yachal Meimar, Migu that he could have said, I didn't divorce you on the base. Yachal Meimar Girashti of an Asatol Ksubasa. He could have said she doesn't have Ede Gerishin, but she says she was divorced. He admits it. Good. He could have done, you know what he could have done? He could say I never divorced you. He could have blown away the whole thing. So Migu that he could have said I didn't divorce you, and he tells the truth, right? Then he doesn't have to pay ksuba. Now, Fred, you're not chayish for false edim. No. Right. Says the word Hamid Tani Seifa. I'm shimri al Aimer. Mina sakana ve'elech isha goy b'ksubasa shaloi beget ubal chayv shaloi b'prusbul. It must be speaking with the Gerishin askina. The leka Ede Gerishin the my gavya. Guys, flow the Mishnah. Guys, the Mishnah flows, right? First case in the Mishnah, ksuba get. There's a get ksuba. We got Shmuel. We got Rav. Good. Second case in the Mishnah, there's no get. Says the Gemara, since there's no get, and what? Believe me that I could have. I divorced her and paid up the ksuba. Immediately I could have said I didn't divorce her at all. Fred the Gemara, how could you possibly said that you didn't divorce her? That there's no Ede Gerishin. There has to be Ede Gerishin. Because Reb Shimon Gamliel says the time when there is sakana and there's no get, then obviously she gets paid. From what? If there's no Ede Gerishin, why should she get paid? So you can see from the words of Reb Shimon Gamliel, it must be speaking where there was Edim. Back to the original question on Rav. Wait, Rav, why don't you get at least the Tosefes for the ksuba? Says the Gemara. So what are we speaking about over here? The whole Mishnah is Reb Shimon Gamliel. The whole Mishnah is Reb Shimon Gamliel. The Chsuri Mechzer and the Mishnah is missing words. Here's the way you have to shot in the Mishnah. Hari elu lo yifru. In the second case, where there's ksuba without a get, you don't collect. The Medamar Ramon, the Isha doesn't collect. Kishain Shem Ede Gerishin. That's when there's no Ede Gerishin, she won't collect. Because why? Migu that he could have said, I never divorced you in the first place. Aval Yesham Ede Gerishin. Here's where you're adding all these words. Aval Yesham Ede Gerishin. If you have Ede Gerishin, right? In a case where you have Ede Gerishin, then Gavya Tosefes, you will collect the Tosefes. Right? Why? Because you have a ksuba. Says the Gemara, the Ikka, Imafka Gita Gavya, and the Ikka, the 200, if she produces a get, she'll get. The Loi Mafka Gita Loi Gavya. However, even though she doesn't produce a get, Gavya, she can collect. Why? Opinion. Okay. So now, you have two pshatim. You have two pshatim how to deal with our Mishnah, guys. Two pshatim, right? We're not worried about double dipping. We're not, according to Rav, because the ksuba and the get would go ahead and they would address two different things. According to Shmuel, it's speaking what in a place where you would if it's speaking in a place where you would write a get a ksuba, It's where you would write a ksuba. Since she produces a get, right? What was the lashon of Shmuel again? I want to get his lashon down. Rav Anan's words of Shmuel, in a place, the Mishnah could be speaking in a place where you didn't write, and if you did write, right, then it's upon you to bring a raya. And Shmuel does not hold you need what, you do not, it's upon you to bring a raya. Shmuel says you do not need what, you do not need a shaver, right? So you not need a shaver again. It depends. If it's a place where they wrote a ksuba, and he says I wrote a ksuba, then it's upon him to bring a raya. If a place where you would write a ksuba, and it's speaking, the Mishnah is speaking where he didn't write the ksuba, and she brought a raya that he didn't. She brought edim that he didn't. That there was no ksuba. That's the case according to Shmuel. Okay, the Gemara gets a little easier now. Okay, again, Rav's din. We're going to question Rav. Says the Gemara, Amalei Rav Kahana Ravasi LeRav. L'didach, according to you, Rav, right? The Armit, who's of the opinion, get goy ve'ikr, a get collects what to 200. Almana min anesuin b'may gavya. An almana from the suin, how is she collecting the 200? The Eidei Misa. Good. It must be the Eidim that they died. Maybe he divorced her. Umafka Legita collected the Iker, the Gavya Bay. In other words, again, you, Rav, thought you took care of double dipping, right? I still got a double dipping problem, guys. Maybe she can collect twice. How? If she's an almana once, produces the get twice, and says, I was divorced. Good. Again, how did Rav avoid the double dipping problem? He separated get from ksuba. But you know there's two ways a woman can collect, either as a divorcee or as a widow. Why didn't Rav take that into account? Maybe she'll go ahead, she'll collect as both, as a divorcee and as a widow, as a gerusha or as an almana. That's the Gemara's kasha. One more time. Fred the Gemara kasha. Get goiva ikar. Almana min asuin b'may gavya. How is she going to collect? It must be be'edei misa. Good. So she's collecting as an almana. V'leicha still magirsha. Maybe he divorced her. Umafka legita v'gavya, and now you're collecting a second time as an almana. Says the Gemara, and for the Gemara you're right. V'yosheves tachas baila. It's speaking where we know she wasn't divorced because the whole time before he died they were living together. Since she's they weren't living in separate locales. They were living together. Obviously, they were living together. They weren't divorced. So you're not worried about what? Producing it again. One second. Good, they were living together. Maybe right before he died, he divorced her, and now she's double dipping. And for Gemara, if you were foolish enough to do that, you're right. You're being mafsid yourself. I was thinking, why would a guy give his wife a get? Because he doesn't want to fall to Yibum. It's not such a far-fetched thing. The guy's dying. The guy's dying, right? He'd give his wife a get, not to fall to Yibum. It's not such a crazy thing. But I guess if he didn't go ahead and put contingency plans into place, then he would have said nafshay. Now, what about this case? Almana min erisin b'may gavya. An almana from erisin, again, the first stage of marriage. An almana from erisin b'may gavya. Be'edei misa. The same question. Melechish tilma girsha umafka gita v'gavya. Elamakam delay efshik kasvin and shayv. In a place where, in other words, guys, by erisin, you can't say that she was your sheves tachas baila. That's the 12-month period where they're not living together. So how's to stop her from double dipping? And the answer is, you're right. Well, you can't stop for sure. Then you write a shaver. There's no question about it. You write a shaver. Because if you don't say you write a shaver where you can't go ahead and avoid it, maybe she'll produce two edei misa. We have no choice. You're right. The whole sugya of a shaver now is we have a choice. So over here, we have no choice. You can write a shaver. How do you know an almana from erisin? How do you know without a ksuba she'll collect? Guys, this is speaking our case, right? We began to share with one big hakdama. Tanai Bezdin, that a woman does not need the ksuba to collect. Good. How do you know that's by almana min erisin? Maybe it's only by almana. So the Gemara clearly asked the question that you're worried about a double dipping, correct? So you assumed unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, that an almana min erisin does in fact what get a ksuba collects ksuba without a tanai Bezdin. How do you know that? How do you know that? So the Gemara will challenge that. Minolan. This like ksuba. How do you know she has a ksuba? Ilema meha. From this is all stuff that we learned. We may have forgotten it, but we learned it. This almaloy, this garsha, if a woman gets widowed or a woman gets divorced, beimin erisin, beimin anasuin, whether it's from erisin or whether nasuin, goyiva esakol. You go ahead, Rod, and you collect the whole thing. She collects the whole ksuba and anti-sefes, right? That's what we were discussing. So what do you see? That what? Even without a ksuba. Right? Maybe. How do you know? Maybe you don't write a ksuba. Where does it say over there that you didn't write a ksuba? Maybe you want to bring a raya that she collects without a ksuba. Where does it say? Did you have a ksuba? The chitema ikos of law, my lememra. And if you're going to telling me, so if he wrote a ksuba, what's the chiddush? What's the chiddush then? I'll tell you what the chiddush is. Guys, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, if you might remember this, the Tosefes ksuba, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is of the opinion you would not get as an arusa, because the whole reason he did it is because the chibas pia, because they're living together, and since they were erisin, you never lived together, so maybe that's the reason we wrote it. But enochinami, you never wrote a ksuba. The chiddush of telling me that you collect the whole thing is lafuke Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says you don't collect the whole thing because you were only arusa, you weren't in a sua. Dekanami, it's meduyik as well. Diktani goyve esakol. I b'shleimid the kosav law. B'shleimid tell me you wrote a ksuba. Shmachi goyve esakol. That's why you collect everything, the ksuba and the taisefes. Aliyamit loy kosav law. My goyve esakol. Manu mesayim hu deisla. Guys, why do you use lashon goyve esakol? Just say 200 or 100. Ella, what does goyve esakol must mean to teach me? Not only the 200 and the 100, but goyve esakol afil the taisefes. So very good. We've proven beautifully that case of this Almon is Garsha is speaking where you wrote a ksuba. Our question is, how do you know Almanim and Erisin collects even without a ksuba? Ishtay Arusa, his wife, we learned this as well. If his wife is an Arusa, meaning and he died and she dies, there's no din of aninis. The coin, it can be metamataha. If she's a bas kohen, she's loyanenes, loymitavemis law. Mesa, if she dies, ain't a yarsha, he doesn't inherit her. Meshu goyve aksubasa. So you see, he collects the ksuba even from Erison. Aye. So the chayy must be what this says. Well, done with the kosav law. The same teretz. Maybe he wrote it. The chitemi kosav law. If you wrote it, my lemem. What's the chiddush? The chiddush is Mesa ain't a yarsha. That if she dies from Erison, she dies, he doesn't inherit her. It's the chlei. In other words, only inherits the after the suin, not by Erison. So the you have not improved what we weren't able to prove a source for almana that from Erison that she collects all type best. Only of Nachman Rav Huna the Rav the Oma get goyve ikka. According to Rav, that the get you get the 200 for the get. Lechish dilma mafka gita b'hai beidina begavya. Okay, now, what would the normal thing be? Guys, if you got a person produces a shtar chayv on you, right, and you pay it up, what would you do? You would take the shtar chayv and rip it up. So if she produces a get, and you're collecting, according to Rav, you're collecting, the get is a document that you can collect the ksuba, so the chayra, you should be able to rip it up, correct? Question, if you can rip it up, how's she going to get remarried? In other words, a get has a twofold purpose over here. It allows you to collect a ksuba. It also, however, is a document that you're a free agent. So you're kind of in a bind over here, right? Oh, says the Gemara. Here we go. Says the Gemara. And if you're going to say you rip it up so she can't use it again, you should pay. I have to get married again. I have to produce it. Says the Gemara, the karvina levi kasvina nagabe, you rip it and you write on it, Gita dinon kernuhu. We ripped up this get. Loimishim the Gita pasal, not because it's a pasal get. Like the hada v'tigve bazinachrina. It should stop it from collecting what a second time. So very intense and Gemara, very, very, but just again fascinating. First of all, guys, the koyach of a Tanai Bezdin, right? That's kilu written b'shtar. They kasugis above mitzia. That it's like you even wrote it in shtar. Right, that you're collecting without the ksuba. You would think the opposite. You would think, how can you collect without ksuba? And you can't collect without ksuba, but this you can collect without ksuba. We had machlokes Rav and Shmuel exactly how that works. Rav said that the get collects the ikar, ksuba collects the tav, and wish you tomorrow we'll be learning sometime during the day. I can't, I'm not going to wait too long. So I'll see what it's a hard Gemara tomorrow, but we'll get it. I'll let you know. I'll send it out as early as possible.